Good afternoon, everyone. This is Reading for Charity again with this mammoth kind of set of reviews I'm planning on doing. Slight change of plan. I was going to do the Talisman, but I'm actually going to get through the next three because they're relatively fresh in my head. A Modest Proposal, oops, outshot, by Jonathan Swift. This is a super short book. It's only a few dozen pages long, and it's very big text, which is what everybody likes. This is a genuine piece of satire. Possibly one of the most famous pieces of satire, and it was written in the 1880s, I think, something like that. And it's basically the book. It's an essay more than anything else. It runs along the lines of we should eat children. We should eat poor people's children, and poor people should be paid for their children up to the age of 5. And they should be paid like we pay butchers for meat. Okay, so it's not the 1880s, it's the 1700s. There we go. 1740. I think it's 1740 this was written. Okay. We should pay poor people for their children, and then we should eat their children, and it would solve the hunger crisis in this country. And it would solve the beggar problem in the country, and it would give poor people money to have a house over their heads in which they could then make more children for us to eat and be paid for, because children would be lovely and nutritious. It is, of course, a piece of satire, straight up and down. It is not intended to be a reasonable suggestion, but it is raising the prospect of the way that the poor were treated in Dublin during that period of time, and in Ireland and Britain during that period of time, during the 1700s, which was absolutely terribly. And there was huge issues with the poor and beggars and people starving and people not having accommodation. And wait a minute, this sounds very familiar. This has connotations for today, doesn't it? Dum dum dum. It's an interesting little essay. It is very, very much satire. I feel the way that you have to look at it these days is that there's a little bit of the literature, inverted commas, the evil literature, invading this essay, in that it's written to be studied, and it's written to be talked about, and it's written to be thought about, and it's not really written to be read. And in that respect, it is fairly thought-provoking, but I think it would have been more thought-provoking when it was written in the 1700s than it is now. These days, we have all decided that it is right and proper for us to feed and clothe and house people. And the reasons stopping us, I will not go into, because that delves into politics, and politics is a bad thing for a YouTube channel. So no. Should you read this book? Unless you're studying Jonathan Swift, probably not. It's an essay, and it's not a very long essay. It's only 19 pages, 18 pages. It's not. You've probably read better arguments online now. At its time, it was groundbreaking. These days, not so much. So I think it's a pass. Don't have to worry about this book at all. So that was A Modest Proposal. Thank you for this one. It was so small, I read it really, really quickly. I read it in 10 minutes on a train. It was amazing. Thank you. Next up we will do List of the Lost by Morrissey. Yep. So until then, thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for listening. Good afternoon.